console version Rust is in a much better state than when it released back in 2021. However, there's still a lot left to be desired, and the console version Rust needs to make these 3 updates before the end of 2022. Otherwise, they're going to have a hard time keeping up with survival games that are going to be releasing in the future, including a successor to The Forest. In addition to that, with gaming PCs dropping to all-time lows, it's more and more tempting for players that love the console version Rust to jump ship and go to the PC version Rust. So these are the 3 things that the console version Rust needs to add if they want to stay relevant into 2023 and beyond. We're going to kick it off with the one that everybody knows: community servers, or otherwise known as player-run servers. Most survival games have these, and Rust promised that they'd deliver this back in 2021. However, it's halfway through, or more than halfway through 2022, and it's still not here. Why are community servers so important? Well, they're important because of a few facts. First off, if you jump into any official server, what you're going to find is massive bases built by massive zergs and clans. These clans literally steamroll anyone that gets in their way. If you're a solo and you shoot one of them, you're going to have 20 men bearing down on you. They've got rockets, they've got C4, they've got everything that they need to blow up your base and ruin your day. And all you did was try and get into a 1v1 and won. So yeah, community servers are needed just because it is simply unfair for solos, duos, or even trios to have to compete with massive zergs that consist of 20 or 30 players. The max player size on the console version of Rust is 8, but a lot of people have gone beyond that, and they've created massive groups that steamroll everybody in their sight. In addition to this, if you don't have the public test branch, community servers offer a lot as far as gunfights go, or gun training goes, and build servers go. If you get access to the PC version Rust, you know that on the PC version Rust, there's a ton of servers where players go to train their aim and where players to go to practice their latest builds. The console version Rust, however, does not have this. The public test branch has this, so players who paid the extra $10 or whatever it was get access to that ability, but everybody who didn't pay for it, they're left waiting for community servers, and that's simply unfair. It makes sense for people who paid a little bit of extra to get an advantage of a month or 2 months playing with gun training servers or aim training servers and build servers, but now it's been over a year and these people still have an advantage. I'm one of those people, by the way, but I still think it's completely unfair that we're sitting in 2022 with only some people having access to things like build servers and aim training servers. And finally, people need community servers because some people just want to play with their friends. Maybe they want a PvE experience where they run the oil rig and the cargo and get it down pat, or maybe they just want to hang out with their friends, talk some shit, build some random stuff, and then get into a fight at the end of a weekend. Whatever they want, they should be able to do that, especially if they're willing to pay the money to support community servers. Next up, as far as things that go, we need vehicles. Maybe not mini copters or cars. I know that is a long way off, but at least horses. The maps in Rust are getting bigger and bigger, and the player base is slowly but surely shrinking. What this means is oftentimes I'll be running around trying to PvP people and not able to find anyone. Between players sitting in their bases and sniping and people simply not being online, it can be hard to find combat when you're looking for it. And what's the point of running monuments, getting over to that red tier monument, running oil rig or running cargo if there's nobody for you to use your gear on? People always say in Rust, use it or lose it, but what happens if you do try and use it but you can't find anyone to use it on? Are we supposed to just take on the outpost or fight off scientists? I don't think so, because scientists, they're the good guys, right? Any anti-vaxxers out? No, I mean to say is I love a good roleplay server. I love someone who's role-playing, but every now and then you want to get out and just use the gear that you find. Without a way to quickly traverse the map, a lot of players are left just sitting in monuments or running around the same area hoping they can find someone, or camping the one poor fool that they did find who was online. This is not a good situation for anybody, and if you add in horses, it's going to be a lot easier for people to get around, find people to fight, find new people to fight, and get to these little mini events that are occurring. What I've noticed is once you get late into a wipe, even if a crate drops, sometimes you only find 1 or 2 other people going for the crate, and sometimes it's just a naked and you, and that's easy enough to take on a naked. Adding in horses is going to give people the option to get farther across the map, and it's going to allow for bigger battles to happen. Also, it allows for people to just get back into the fight all that much faster, which I'm a big fan of. I hate being killed, I hate being third-manned in, but at the same time, that adds to those epic firefights. When you're taking someone on and then off to your right-hand side, you notice someone coming in fast, you get to think at I don't want to say 3D chess level, but you've got to think about things just all that much harder, and it makes the fights all that more memorable. My biggest memories, or my favorite memories in Rust, are taking on 3 men and then having another man pop up behind me and being able to take him on, or being that 3rd man in, seeing a huge clan fight where there's only 2 people left and being able to take one of them out and then get the other guy before he can grab his gun and shoot me. It is just one of those intense situations, and having horses, having the ability for people to get back into the battle and get more people into these massive battles adds a lot more excitement to the game, and that's one thing that I think is missing in the later stages of Rust. You get far into the game and you don't have that combat, you don't have that excitement, and a lot of people just leave and the game sort of slowly dies, or at least the server does, and that's what we want to avoid. Finally, the last thing I think they desperately need to do is raise the price of skins. Skins are too cheap. All you brokies, no, I'm just kidding. No, but really, number 3, what I think they need to do is fix a lot of these PvP bugs that are popping up. Things like getting into a boat and your sound clipping, or crashing when you're running a monument, or getting into a gunfight, or even just shooting a gun and having the game lag. Things like that really desperately need to be fixed. Now, a lot of the defenses that developers and just people in the gaming industry in general have hidden behind when things like this come up is they'll say, well, it's not a competitive PvP game. But Rust is a competitive PvP game. Not in the sense that there's these huge prize pools and everybody's sitting at one sort of tournament sweating their asses off, drinking Monster all weekend and then having a heart attack. No. What people are doing is they're sitting at home for 24 hours drinking Monster and then having a heart. But no, really what it is you put so much time into getting your gear, so much time into getting to a certain level, so much time into farming that AK, farming that MP5, farming that set of armor. And then to lose it due to some simple glitch is just something that a lot of people can't stomach. If it happens in a game that lasts 5 minutes, you lost 5 minutes of your time. It sucks, but it's not the end of the world. If it happens in a game like Rust, you might be losing hours and hours of time. For some people, that's all the time they really get to play the game. They get to a level where they can PvP or where they can do a raid. They go to do that raid and then they die due to a bug, and that's it. Game over. They spend they spend hours of their lives to get to that point, and then it all just disappears. They've got to go to work, and life just sucks. That's something that I think a lot of people can't stomach, and from just talking with people in the community, that's the reason that a lot of people are leaving the game and not coming back. They play the game, they're enjoying the game, they're having a great time, and then they lose a bunch of rockets, or they lose a bunch of C4, or they lose even just an AK and some armor due to a glitch, due to a bug, due to an invisible wall that exists that shouldn't. And there's nothing that anyone can do to get that gear back to them. It's just gone. And this is stuff that might take hours and hours to farm up. These players are saying, hey Siri, what can I do about this? I spent hours yesterday farming up to get to the point where I could raid, and it wasn't that my base got raided. I didn't make a mistake. There was an invisible wall and it made the rocket blow up in my face. It killed me, and then some naked that was following along ran up and decided to take all my gear. And there's nothing they can do. There's no advice I can give them. It's not like I can say, well, get better, watch some guides, because there was literally nothing they could do to prevent that. It was a glitch. It was a bug. It was something that they had no control over. And when you lose gear like that, when you lose hours of your life like that, it just makes you want to leave the game and never come back. And that's what's chasing a lot of these players away from this game. Now, there's a few different ways they can go about solving this thing. Like I said, they need to fix the bugs and all of that. But in addition, if you introduce servers that allow 2x, 3x, 4x the gathering rate, people are going to lose less time, and the people who don't have the tolerance to play on a 1x server are going to go to those servers, and they're more likely to stay. You can add PvP servers, so people who just have a couple hours can go play there. Same with the build servers. There's a lot of options they can use to sort of mitigate some of these things that are happening, but the developers have decided to take none of those avenues. Instead, they're letting people deal with the bug, and in fact, just last month when there was a Dropbox bug and people were losing their bases, there was no sort of reprieve given to anyone who was suffering from that. There was nothing like, hey, maybe if so many people are having this message at devs, we can go in and remove a wall. Or maybe we can do something like revert the patch so that people can actually use drop boxes. Response is just nothing. They might as well message the players and say, hey, get fucked. Like literally, that's what you're doing to your customers when you do something like this. Typically with a game, with any sort of software that you develop and that you're continuously patching, there is a rollback process that you can do instantly if you need to do it. I've been in that situation where I've released bugs to sites that are losing thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute. And you know how fast I get it reverted in? Seconds. Seconds later, everything's back to normal and we're okay because we spotted the bug, we fixed it, and nobody even noticed, except for the bank account and the accountants who really do want to talk to me. But in the case of Rust, the players notice it, they complain, it's acknowledged, and they say, hey, we're working to fix it, and then 2 weeks later, the fix goes out. In those 2 weeks, how come nothing was done to revert the patch? Things like this are basic courtesies that should be given to any sort of customer when it comes to software development, and the fact that D11 doesn't do it makes me question what's going on behind the scenes that is causing this, okay? I want to hear the reason for why they can't revert a patch or the reason why they're not reverting a patch. Maybe there is a really good reason that I don't know of, but one of those things that just doesn't pass the smell test and it doesn't give players confidence in the developers. When it comes to bugs like this, it doesn't give players confidence that, hey, that time that I died to an invisible wall due to a rocket, that's going to be fixed in a month or two. I should stick with the game. When people see that it takes 2 weeks to fix a bug that was introduced like just with a patch, it makes them think, hey, this bug that's been in the game for a while, this bug that they haven't really mentioned, this bug that nobody's saying anything about, that's probably something that's never going to get fixed. So I might as well go on to a game that actually cares about fixing things like that and not wasting my time. And look, it's only affecting a small minority of people, but there's more and more people being affected by it every day, and there's more and more people leaving the game because of that. So I think the bugs and the glitches are something that has to go. The process of how they're even approached and fixed has to change. If a patch introduces a bug, if it introduces a glitch, and it's something that is game-changing for even a small amount of people, if it's 1% of people, 0.5% of people, you've got to roll it back. Right now, we're looking at a bug where textures are all appearing black, and over the weekend, they just said, hey, we're going to try and fix it, put on motion blur. Look, I get it. They did introduce a fix. They did tell us how to fix it. But what about the people who aren't following Rust Console Edition on Twitter, who aren't in the Discord, who aren't listening to these videos? How do they know? Yeah, that's the 3 things that I think the console edition of Rust needs to fix in 2022. One thing you're going to notice I didn't include, I didn't talk about new monuments, I didn't talk about new guns, I didn't talk about vehicles or any of that stuff. I love those things. I think that they need to be added to the console version of Rust for it to give players the full Rust experience. I'd love to see subways, I'd love to see trains, but I don't think it's reasonable to expect that to happen in 2022. 2023, 2024, maybe even beyond that, I could see some of these things coming to the console edition of Rust. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a few things that need to be added in 2022, and that's what I think it is. Custom servers, horses so people can get across the map, and fixing the bugs and glitches. As a sort of 4th bonus one, electricity would be really nice to have. I've seen less and less of sort of the turret spam as time goes on, and every time you get a new wipe, that sort of does a ton to just reduce the amount of auto turret spam that you get. But being able to fix that will add some more sort of life to a lot of these servers, because once you get sort of 2 weeks into a game, you got clans that are just placing up turrets for the hell of it, and that really gets annoying when you jump in late or when you're just a solo trying to get by. But yeah, that's where everything stands. That's what I think. What do you guys think that should be added to this game? I'm curious. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you love the bugs? Do you hate horses? What do you think? What do you think should be added? And why do you think the number 69 is so special? Until next time, peace.